Welcome to the Societal Lens podcast. Today we're talking about euthanasia. Enjoy!
Right, okay. Euthanasia. Definition. Sam, I never say definitions. He's looking up the definition on his phone right now.
I just realised I wrote the definition for superstition, not euthanasia.
I have the definition for superstition as well. We're going to have 4 definitions.
Euthanasia is defined as the painless killing of a patient suffering from an incurable and painful disease or in an irreversible coma.
Euthanasia is killing someone who wants to die because they're in pain. Yeah. Boom.
But they don't have to be in pain.
Yeah.
Also, they could be in a coma. They can also just be in a coma that's irreversible, as this defined.
Yes.
That is,
okay.
you know.
Whatever smart you can.
Euthanasia. Word, euthanasia. It comes from the Greek eu, meaning good, and thanatos, meaning death.
You think I'm good?
Oh my god, fantastic! Elise, in your research, I saw something so interesting about Diane Pretty. Can you tell us more about her?
I can. So, Diane Pretty had motor neuron disease. Why not?
Why are you laughing?
And she wanted to control the time and the manner of her death. She needed help from her husband to die. I don't remember writing that. Okay. So she asked the government to guarantee that her husband wouldn't be prosecuted if he, helped her die. And the House of Lords, they said no. They rejected it. They said that the right to life didn't include the right to die. So she took her case to the European Court of Human Rights and argued that the right to life included a right to choose whether to carry on living. And they disagreed. And they said the right to life was not determined by quality of life. They did say that Diane's right to choose how to end her life came within her right to respect for private life. But they didn't let her have euthanasia.
Motor neuron disease is a terminal disease, which means she would have died in quite a painful way.
Okay, so, fair enough that she wanted to die quickly and, not be in pain.
Is there a difference between assisted dying and euthanasia?
There is. Assisted dying is... Okay, I can't remember. So, one of them is yes, there is. Okay, assisted dying is where, so say somebody's on life support, you take off their life support, so you're not actually giving them anything to kill them, but you're taking away something that's keeping them alive. And then euthanasia is giving them an injection or something that would directly kill them.
Yeah.
It's my RS knowledge, that is.
So in this case, was it assisted killing or was it?
It was going to be assisted dying.
Okay.
What do you guys think the House of Lords should have passed it, or?
So she should have had the right to be able to decide when and how she died. Because she wanted to have dignity in her death, and she wanted to have a peaceful death that didn't have pain that she did have when she died of the motor neuron disease.
One of the arguments for was animals, they're allowed to be put down when they're in pain. I mean, it's considered mercy, put them down. Yeah. An animal who's really old, can't really do much, and then it's miserable.
But the animal cannot consent. That's the difference. That's the difference between the two things here.
Yeah, but exactly, the human is.
Are we saying that?
However, what were one of your arguments against euthanasia?
Argument against was more to do, not even to do with the patient, but more to do with the people around, the people who have to enact.
Do you think have to, kill his wife?
Well, surely she was asking for him, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Do we know what the method was that they were? Was it just
No, it didn't say.
It doesn't say. But imagine just having to kill someone.
The emotional burden would be bad. However, he did agree to it. I'm assuming based on it getting to the House of Lords. I don't know, but you're asking me against the case. The case is different, kind of.
Okay, well, just read your against.
My against says
apply it.
My against is against the doctors having to act it out. But in this case, we're doing assisted dying, which is.
So doctors should be given the ability to play God. He shouldn't be given the ability to play God. Change doctors to the husband.
Oh, that's...
Yeah.
There is the argument that the husband would be given the power to play God in the situation, and allowing for this to happen would open the doors for every single case that follows, in which it would be allowing for people to consent to someone that isn't medically trained enacting death.
But I don't think it would be like different for every situation. So like they'd each go to like the House of Lords, and the House of Lords would decide depending on the situation. Like I don't think it would necessarily open up doors for everyone.
Can the House of Lords handle everyone who wants it to be done? Because I'm sure there's lots of cases. Can we regulate it? That's the question.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying. I don't think it's a great argument. It should be treated like almost as a murder case if it hasn't happened yet. But yeah, it's just because if it is murder or if it's not, but like before it's actually happened. So if it is murder, then no one actually like goes to prison.
So having somewhat of a euthanasia task force.
Yeah.
Can we confirm that people won't manipulate the system by peer pressuring others into having euthanasia?
It's always going to be faults in a system, but it ultimately would be a system that would help people regain their dignity.
Is it worth the risk of killing people who don't want to die at all?
I think there would have to be extensive regulations in place, because it is a life or death situation.
And could we uphold that? What would we put the duty on? No, I mean, like, what? Like what people? Like, would we put this responsibility on doctors to enact this? Would we have a new job system in place? People who would get trained?
Judges.
It would be it would have to be someone with a very specific set of skills.
Yeah.
Someone with the ability to process in their mind philosophical debates, someone who has a medical understanding of all of it, a legal understanding.
Maybe a psychological understanding as well.
Yeah.
Would that be the biggest concern for our money to go to?
I mean, people are like in a lot of pain. I'd say like it's pretty important.
Exactly, there's a lot of people who can be cured and need the help, and of course the NHS is underfunded. Would that money not be better spent there?
You can't be cured. That's the thing.
So,
probably like terminally ill patients who are trying to be euthanized.
but there's more people who aren't terminally ill than are.
However, there was a case I read about.
The case.
Called Daniel James, who was paralyzed, but his physical therapist said that he was getting better and he was improving. He was able to move his hands. And I can't find the quote here. I don't think I put it in, sorry. But his physiotherapist stated that it was possible for
there was
Daniel to have improved.
There is a quote. There is a quote in there.
There is a quote. I don't think it's...
Daniel continually expressed his wish to die and was determined to achieve this. He was not prepared to live a second-class existence. His life was no doubt a welcome relief. His death was no doubt a welcome relief. The prison, his body... Oh my gosh, this is like deep. Sorry.
Yeah, that is not the quote I was talking about.
Oh, sorry.
No, had a quote. But I didn't add it in. But the physiotherapist stated that it was possible for Daniel to have improved. So we are uncertain of the future consequences in Daniel's case of him being euthanized.
Yes, of course, death is irreversible, if not evident by its nature.
Wow, Sam.
I know, it's crazy.
Okay. However, Daniel did want to die. He expressed he wanted to die. His parents supported his decision to die, and they said that Daniel continually expressed his wish to die and was determined to achieve this. He was not prepared to live a second-class existence. His death was no doubt a welcome relief from the prison his body had become, and the day-to-day fear and loathing of his living existence. Sorry, I can't read. Okay. She has dyslexia. Yeah, sorry guys.
If you couldn't tell.
I actually couldn't. I was very good, Sam. So thank you, Aline. Right. Daniel wanted to die, and I read out the quote.
Yeah, we don't know the future prospects of what could have happened if he was helped.
And if we take a utilitarian perspective, we would seek to maximize happiness or the preferences of individuals, which Daniel's preference was to die. No one forced him to want to die or choose to die. And we are told from his parents and from his account that his life had become intolerable. And parents and friends were consulted on this decision, and they were happy that his wishes were fulfilled, or they wouldn't have actually assisted him in getting to where he needed to go to be euthanized.
Would we agree for this to happen with people who have mental illnesses who no longer want to live?
It depends on
I think it depends
on the
like,
person, the severity, the type.
Yeah, because obviously if they're going through if they have bipolar and they're going through an episode, obviously they're gonna say, yes, I want to die. So I feel like it is a bit it's a bit hard because they're gonna it obviously it's not gonna.
But if someone's got schizophrenia and that it's genuinely driving them.
Yeah.
They just can't live with it anymore, then
it was annoying me. It was in the middle.
then fair enough, maybe.
It's hard to say that they were mentally competent in those situations, though, which is
that's
makes it hard to regulate the system if we can't say it's mentally competent people who are asking for it.
Which is why I think it should be a very difficult legal process if it ever does become legal, just to make sure that everyone's 100% sure.
Heavily regulated process.
Yeah.
In addition to this, having it be really difficult, it would make sure that anyone who feels like they're going to be a burden on their family, and that's why they want euthanasia, it would be more of a burden to almost have the euthanasia than to keep living.
Yeah.
So we can avoid that issue.
Why?
The argument against that is let's try and make it more of a burden to try and kill yourself.
Yeah.
If imagine we make it so bad that it's just the people who could be suffering until their death, they're just nope, not worth it. It's not worth going through that process.
Or if they don't think it's worth it.
Well, if they don't think it's worth it, then clearly they shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah,
you know what
exactly.
I mean?
Would this extend the length of the process in which they have to get accepted then? And
it has to be a long process.
Extend their suffering though.
I'm aware, but also you're shortening it in the long run. So
yeah.
Sorry.
Quality.
So the mental health thing, there was a case I read about, and I'm very sorry if I pronounce her name wrong. It's
Aurelia?
I think it's Aurelia.
Aurelia Browers, who had her mental health had been declining since she was very young. So she did have bipolar, but she heard voices. So she was schizophrenic, I believe. She was allowed to end her life on account of her psychiatric illnesses. And she was helped to die by Dutch doctors. She was 29 years old and she'd chosen to be voluntarily euthanized because she had a lot of mental health issues, and she said that she suffered unbearably and hopelessly. Every breath she took is torture. And that's a direct quote from an article on BBC News. So that is a very unique story because it's against the law in most countries, but in the Netherlands, where her case took place, it's allowed if a doctor is satisfied that a patient's suffering is unbearable with no prospect of improvement, and if there is no reasonable alternative in the patient's situation. So obviously those criteria are way more straightforward in the case of someone with a terminal diagnosis who's in great pain, and the vast majority of deaths from euthanasia in the Netherlands are cases of people with a physical disease. But it was 83 out of 6,585 people were euthanized on the grounds of psychiatric suffering in the Netherlands in 2017.
I mean, what if she did have a chance to recover and we just never really got to see it because she died?
Well, she's an example of a very young woman because she was only 29, and it makes it a lot harder to make the decision on her part and then the doctor's part and on her family's part, because in that case, you're taking away a lot of life. She would have lived for another 50, 60 odd years.
Yeah.
But she did say that every breath she took is torture. She couldn't go on living the way she was living because of how much mental anguish she was in.
I mean, 30 years, she was 29, basically 30. 30 years is quite a long time to not see any improvement, just go downhill. Especially because those are supposed to be the best years of your life and everything. Yeah. Do we have any more arguments for?
I
guess it's not really going off of that, but this kind of applies to the UK. Sometimes doctors will still find a illegal ways to help a person die because like they physically can't live anymore. But obviously they're very like harmful ways. Like obviously they're harmful because the person's dying, but they're painful and like I feel like if euthanasia was allowed, there could be easier ways to, like help somebody die. Like it could be a lot quicker instead of a
more
painful
humane.
death. Yeah.
Family and friends would be spared a lot of pain. Like obviously, it's a hard decision helping one of your loved ones die, but they also would be spared a lot of mental anguish seeing their loved ones suffer a really long, drawn out, painful death.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess it's sort of like the lesser of two evils, I guess. Also, back to what Sam was saying like a while ago. You were saying about the NHS and funding and stuff. Well, you know those people who are sort of in like really long-term comas, like they're not really going to wake up, they're on life support. I mean, that's taking up a lot of funding in the NHS.
Yeah,
Like,
and
a
it's
lot.
like taking up beds and everything.
So
And
what
you-
advice that we do to those people?
I say we legalise it because then obviously there'll be less of them. I say we give them like a certain amount of time before.
Yeah.
Because that is a big question.
Yeah.
Should we
There
kill
isn't-
people?
it
doesn't
Building more beds.
We need to have the consent of the family, the doctor. Again, I think it should be treated as sort of like a murder trial kind of thing. I think
Once
every
again, like
situation's
how
different.
long is it gonna be until they wake up? Because obviously, if I was in a coma, I would want to die. Like if I was in like a 20-year coma, I wouldn't want to just
Waking up 20 years in the future.
Yeah,
no,
no, that would
Rick
suck.
Wilson film.
Yeah, but
Which
it wouldn't
one?
be like that.
Senior year.
Oh my god, that one. What should we? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think because obviously it's not possible if someone gets in a car accident and they're forced into a coma. But in people who are at risk of comas due to heart conditions or brain conditions, they could have kind of pre-informed consent
Yeah.
to be taken off life support if they ever do go into a
It's kind of like organ like as a similar way to like
Yeah.
organ donors. Like you
Yeah.
just sort of sign up for it if you're okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a really good idea, I think. But again, I think even if they did sign something like that, I still think it should go to court and be trialed, considering that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, yeah. Also, there are alternative treatments to euthanasia. So there's palliative care and hospices. There was some research that said that the outcome of the study carried out shows requests for euthanasia or assisted suicide are largely due to fear of being a burden or abandoning families and relatives, which we don't want people just dying because they feel like they're being a burden.
We don't want peer pressure to occur in the system, and that's hard to regulate entirely.
Yeah, which again is why I think it's just like a really difficult legal process. Then,
Make it a burden to kill yourself.
I think there should be like things put in place where obviously if it is like an old person or something, there should be like somebody there to support like them and to talk to them without their family so that they can go, maybe I don't want to die.
Yeah, like they should be given a therapist or a counselor or something like that. Like if the judge in the trial suspects like this isn't like you, the only reason you want to die is because of other people, you don't feel like your life is worth living, maybe go and like speak to a therapist and then you can come back in a bit if you still feel like that.
Yeah.
Give it a week.
Sleep.
I think about the because you were talking about like the palliative, I don't know how to say that. Palliative care. I swear I wrote about that. Wait. Yeah, but I wrote
For
against it.
Well, yeah,
I
you know what I meant.
Oh my god, did I keep it in? Give me a second. Oh, according to the Office of Health Economics in the UK, even if every dying person who needed it had access to good quality palliative care, 6,394 people per year would still have no effective pain relief in the final 3 months of their life. So,
I mean, the final 3 months of your life, that's quite like important,
yeah.
I feel like your whole life and it's summed up in those 3 months in that absolute agony. Like,
Yeah.
do you...
Sam!
I will continue with it's just like, do you really want your entire life to be summed up by those 3 months just absolutely awful? I want my last 3 months to be sort of like, saying goodbye to the people I love, doing things I want to do in life, which I can't really do if I'm in complete agony.
Yeah.
Yeah. In Aurella's case, she spent the last couple months of her life spending time with her family and traveling and doing the things she wanted to do.
Yeah.
That's a nice one.
Yeah.
However, there is no right to be killed, and it can turn into like a slippery slope kind of situation. Also involuntary euthanasia might start to become more common. So, I mean, this sounds really bad, but if there's like a family and like there's so like a nan or something, it's just like really old, not having a good time, but hasn't like specifically requested for euthanasia, or maybe they can't talk, and they haven't requested euthanasia, but they're like, hey, you seem like you would like it. Maybe like
I feel like there could be like obviously if somebody like physically can't like
consent to it.
consent, I think there should be like more measures towards it.
Yeah.
But like, are you talking like in the case that somebody like can't move like anything? Like
Yeah,
they
do you
just
remember that
cannot
one video we watched in RS like a few years ago?
Yeah, but that guy could, because he could, they move their eyes,
Oh, right,
and he would obviously on the board, like, and he would.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like if like people who are in, sorry,
Unable to consent. Yeah.
people who are like, yeah, but I mean, like in the case of like,
Yeah.
a lot of them they can move their eyes and they talk through boards. I can't remember what his name was, but
No,
there
me
was a
either.
guy who he couldn't move or anything. All he could do was move his eyes, and he communicated through a board where he did wish to die. And I feel like obviously in cases like that, it's kind of hard to like to say like okay, so they can consent. I feel like there's not a lot of cases where people can't consent
Unless they're like in a coma.
unless it's a
Or
coma,
blind.
which
If they're in that state and blind, they're not moving their eyes, are they?
yeah.
And do what with that? How are they going to tell us yes?
But we already talked about like in a coma, where like obviously if it's long enough. But I was just saying because you said about legislative.
However, medical miracles happen quite often, actually, in cases of
Medical
comas.
miracles. Yeah, I don't know if we can rely on medical miracles.
Yeah,
we
but
should
should we-
The whole
rely on
point of
miracles.
them is there.
That
Miracles.
Yeah.
Is it worth risking it though? Because if there was a chance that they could have come back, and let's say they did in the case that they didn't have it, if we had gone through with it, then they wouldn't have had that life that they've now come back to.
Yeah, well, I guess you could like bring in like religion to this, right? So in Christianity, you know, thou shalt not kill, which I guess that would kind of go against this because it's assisted dying, assisted killing.
A lot of Christians do agree with it though.
So
I
do
don't.
Yeah,
Muslims.
it's also because you don't want your neighbor to be suffering, you know.
It's also doctor's oath.
Yeah.
71% of people who identify as religious support changing the law on assisted dying.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there are a lot of different religions as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in Hinduism, because they have the Aman that sort of gets
Mhm.
reincarnated, they probably aren't worried too much about ending someone's life because they'll come back in the next life and they'll be
Yeah.
right as right.
I was gonna say they're up for murder. No.
Yeah, I think it is like
I think
it is
definitely-
difficult, but it's just like you know, you don't have to do it.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Like, if you're against it, you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with like abortions.
Yeah. It's if you don't want to do it.
Pro-choice.
Yeah.
Choice.
Yeah. It's choice.
So how do we guys want to wrap it up then? Like, what do we want to do with this?
I guess just ask all
When
of
did we
us
last
if we
see
agree
that?
with this.
Well, final opinions.
Okay, so
yeah.
Hayley, what's your final opinion?
Well, I think that it should be legal, but I think it should be a difficult legal process that takes like a while. And people should have therapy, counselling in it. Family members should be considered as well. I think that the judges need to be like super qualified, you know, in law, medically, psychologically, just everything. I need to have a lot of experience with sort of cases like that instead of just sort of a random person. What about you, Elise? What are your
I
final
agree
thoughts?
with Hayley. She has already said everything, so yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
I would have to agree. However, I do think that this, in terms of, on the bigger side, in terms of the government going through with this, the House of Lords agreeing to this needs to be a bigger discussion. This, although it is already a
It
large
is a big
discussion,
right now.
I think if they were to go through with it, it needs to be very much thought through, and there needs to be a lot of deciding, weighing the benefits against the lots of risks that
Pro-con
it
list.
does hold.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, you kind of said it all. Like, I completely agree. It should be a highly, highly regulated system.
Yeah.
But people should have the choice and the dignity to die as they would like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now let's do an outro.
Thank you for listening to our episode. Next week, we'll be looking at space colonization and if it's ethical or not.
So loud. Right, are we done? Yeah.
Yes.
They like-
In a vegetable debate.
Yeah.
So.
Vegetative.
Is it technically murder if he's killing her?
No, because
What?
that's what
The right to die, and she isn't. So, something to think about, I guess.
Go on. Fun fact, euthanasia. Me and idiots. Are we
Sorry.
teasing? Wait, do we?
Are we teasing?
Are we teasing?
No, Sam, we're filming a podcast.
Welcome all.
Euthanasia, will you play the piano for us? Anyone else have anything to add to that?
Not really.
How did she die? Oh. I can't get it.
Sorry?
Painful disease.
It's on the advert for the line.
Euthanasia is defined as the painless